House to Home, presented by RE/MAX Diamond Realty.
Hey everybody, part 2 of our fascinating conversation about what happens when property is deeded to a minor. And Miss Liz is here from RE/MAX Diamond Realty Guam. Hello.
Hey. Wacky one.
We're the same age.
Hey, you know what? That tradition, you hardly see that now, of the fangingi.
We got to teach the young kids.
Yeah.
Be
They
respectful.
usually come and they kiss, but there's 2 ways to do it. We used to do it the old way where you clip your nose.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other way where you do this.
Oh, see, and that kind of has bearing on what we're talking about today with property, because last week we were talking about what should happen if you deed property to a minor, and now we're going to get a little bit morbid and, perish the thought, but if property is deeded to a young person, and that young person should become incapacitated or die, I would assume, because I'm naive, that the property would automatically revert back to the person who did. No.
If the minor...
Are we going to say the P word?
Yes, probate. It
Probate.
would have to go
Really?
through the probate process, yes, because the property is in that person's name, in that minor child's name.
Even if the person deeded it is still alive and is still sound mind?
It doesn't revert back to the parent. Parents normally deed property to children for different reasons. One, they want to just pass on the excess property that they may have. Because on Guam, we're all about passing property to family. So they would do that to bypass the probate process. But if something happened to the minor child, yes, you still have to go through the probate process.
That is astonishing.
You have to go
me.
to an attorney.
Wow.
Yes. So, I mean, we've had situations where families deeded it to the minors. I know I had one case where they were ready to sell, we had everything in place, and then we were, I guess, pulling the title research, and then we found that I guess the parent forgot that they had deeded it to their children, and they thought that they had all the rights to sell. But it delayed the selling process because we had to go to court, and normally if you go to court, you have to get a court date. That takes time. And then when you do go through the court process, it might take 30, 60, maybe 90 days. So can you imagine if you had a ready, willing, and able buyer paying cash, standing by, it just stops.
Okay, now
Stops
while
the
we're speaking
process.
on the subject of mortality, so say a parent wants to do what's right for the family and to deed that property to their child, and say they give it to the child when the child is like, arbitrarily 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
Can the parent actually specifically say, this is for you to do whatever you want when you turn 18, or only in the event that I become incapacitated or I lose my life?
I mean, they could, if they
Because a kid could hit its 18th birthday and just say, okay, I want to sell.
Well, and the child, the 18-year-old has the right, unless there were covenants and restrictions associated or placed on that deed.
Okay, so you as a parent can still set stipulations.
You could do that, but I haven't seen too many of those where they say, it's kind of like if you're entitled to money, they put it in a trust and they say you can't get your money until you're 35 years old because the parent feels at that stage of your life you're probably very stable. So if you're passing a deed, if the deed has no restrictions, then the child could do whatever they choose to do with that property because it is in their name.
Well, not to editorialize, but property was recently deeded to me, and the idea was that, okay, we're laying this out just so we can stay in the family, but only am I allowed to do something with it in the event that the person who deeded to me, something happens to them. It's not when there's no time restriction on it. It's not if I meet some condition or something like that. It's, just so I can
So when
the
deed was passed to you, did it stipulate restrictions on that deed? So if it did not stipulate restrictions on the deed, then you could do whatever you choose to do with it, unless it's an arrangement or an agreement, a verbal arrangement. It's up to you on how you want to honor that.
But there's still that pecking order. It's like, okay,
Yes.
like the parent
Yes.
and then the child and then maybe,
Yeah, and
the stepson
yes,
or
yeah.
the son-in-law or whatever
Right.
like that. There's that
So
pecking
I
order.
think the point we want to make to the public is that what is your intent? And you've got to know that eventually if something comes up and you want to sell the property and you've got it deeded to a minor child, you just need to go back to court to have the court approve the sale for the property. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the most common question you get when people ask you like about deeds and everything? Because we've covered a lot here, but
Well,
what's
on
the
the
community
legal,
say?
again, on legal affairs, that's not our purview.
Sure.
That would be, we would tell them contact an attorney if they need to do probate, or even to do the process of getting the court to approve the sale. They have to contact an attorney, and the attorney, of course, knows the process and the time frame involved. We just speak basically from our experiences, because like Gina said, she's had properties deeded to the child during a parental subdivision. I've had cases where the property was deeded to the child and they're still a minor, and they wanted to sell like right away, and they couldn't. So I think the message out there is, if the objective is to eventually sell it, you know, and your child is a minor, you've got to be prepared. Have the window of time that if you are to sell it, have the window of time to account for the court processing, the legal documentations with the attorney, and even though the court has approved it, the sale cannot go forward until you get that court order signed by the judge. And even to get that court order may take, it could be a day, it could be 30 days.
Now I understand.
So yeah,
okay.
so there is a window of time that they have to be cognizant of, that you can do it. There's a time frame and a process. So, but if you want to sell it quickly, that may not happen.
Well, bottom line, the system is in place to make sure that
Yes.
you and your loved ones are taken care of. And it's
exactly.
all about respect. So we open the show with, you know what, we're going to end like that. See, respect, everybody. All right, thank you so much.
Mañana.
Yeah, and we respect you for giving us all this
you.
wonderful information. And we respect you for watching. If you see me out in the community, don't just give me a hand pound and everything. Don't make me feel old. All right, we'll see you next time.
Closed captioning is brought to you by IT&E. Explore your world.